Hi, I'm Mary Bond. I'm the Group Director for Seatrade Cruise. Thank you for joining us in this Seatrade Cruise Virtual Expedition Cruising Innovation Buzz Session. Today, I'm sitting down with Dr. Michael Greenberg. He is the CEO of Fionet Rapid Response Group, aka FRR. Welcome, Michael.
Pleasure to join you. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to start the conversation, please provide a brief background on FRR, your areas of operation and expertise.
FRR is a joint venture between two companies who have found that they work extremely productively together. Relay Medical Corporation and the company I founded, FIO Corporation. And FRR was set up to take advantage of technologies that we've developed that combine in a very unique way and enable the scale up of pandemic management, not only by governments, but also by corporations, so that they could preserve economic viability despite the presence of a pandemic, how they can function despite the presence of a pandemic. So our platform is called Fionet, hence Fionet Rapid Response Group, and we've worked very well together. I've done many joint ventures in my business career, and this one is probably the most productive.
Okay, and are you currently working in the cruise market? And if so, if you could explain a little bit of what you're doing, or is it an area that you are targeting for a potential business opportunity?
Pardon me, the latter. But I might use the metaphor, we're parachuting into it because we are working with the airline industries, with air travel. So it's just been announced that we're deploying at Canada's largest and busiest airport, one of the busiest in North America, Pearson International in Toronto. There are others to come also in other parts. So once we saw that we could contribute to high volume movement of moving people, of passengers, it was natural to think of cruise ships. And so to us, it's a logical next step, and we're very interested in that sector. And many of the deployment challenges, not deployment challenges, many of the COVID-related challenges, airports have been hit very hard. Think about them from an economic viewpoint, and so has the cruise industry. So the problems are the same. The passing back and forth of large populations in short times are the same, and the management of disease containment, the problems are the same. So we feel it's one of those things where as soon as we looked at the cruise section, it's like we've been there all our lives. It's a very natural extension.
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's a lot of similarities between a cruise ship and a aircraft in terms of the bubble scenario once embarkation has taken place. Testing of passengers and crew of both small and larger cruise ships is a challenge, both at embarkation and throughout the cruise. How can your products maintain a COVID-19 free vessel, and what is required in order to do that?
So, pardon me, one of the three things come to mind. One of the needs is high throughput. So you want to be able to test cruise ship thousands of people. An airport, by the way, Pearson International before COVID there's 130,000 people a day that used to pass through that, and they want to get back to those numbers, and God willing, it'll happen with our help. So cruise ship, so high throughput is critical. The second is that the quality of care or the quality of testing, the quality of triage that's provided in a decentralized way has to match what you'd reasonably expect currently available in hospitals. So there's high throughput, there's quality of testing delivered. And third, people managing these operations need to have data instantly. So you don't want to learn that a week and a half ago, somebody got on the ship, and you, you, you want to know before they get on, and you want to be able to test them each time they get off the ship and get on the ship, or whatever it is that the management in its correct wisdom decides. So we have a tool that enables all of those three things. Uh, you know, 75 devices can process a million a million people in a day. So 75 devices isn't a lot, so you can scale it appropriately. So it's very high throughput. We built a lot of AI and guided procedures into our device, so it guides people and it guides them to work at the same level of competency, which we also track as you get if you were going to a hospital. You cannot put a million people a day through a hospital. You can through 75 devices, or scale it right down to 10,000 people with a handful of devices. So the quality of care is preserved, and our devices are connected so that in real time, any desired dashboard or report by the ship's captain or the ship owners or both or medical staff, they can have dashboards that are updated in real time. So everything that's going on in a decentralized, highly accurate fashion is also instantly reported on. Decisions are therefore made. And the whole point of this is to restore normal function in an abnormal circumstance, which is the presence, the continuing threat of a pandemic. It doesn't mean a pandemic used to mean everybody goes quarantine and everything stops. That's how it was. Quarantine was an innovation that dates from the 14th century. With 21st century technology, you can actually have more or less normal function despite a pandemic, and that is the innovation that FRR brings.
Okay, Michael, could you just explain, you mentioned devices, I heard that mentioned a few times. Could you perhaps give some clarity as to what that device is, how, if I was a cruise line or a port or a destination that might be interested in working with you, what physically would I need to invest in, and how would that integrate within my existing setup?
Understood. So there's two parts of the question, really. How does it work and what does it look like? And the other is, what would you invest in? So I'll separate those two. So picture something about, you'll pardon me, but picture something about half the size of a toaster, depending on how big the toaster is, and as beautiful as a Ferrari, I will say. So there's a device about that size. Size of a rugby ball, maybe smaller, a small rugby ball. It's tabletop, it's highly mobile, and it has a nice, lovely screen that is a touch screen. It has a little chamber into which rapid diagnostic tests are passed, and the screen guides the user, who doesn't need to be a trained doctor. We've deployed it in parts of the world with people who are only have primary school education, and so it guides them through the correct process. It processes the rapid tests, and it is what enables so many people to be tested in a quality controlled manner so quickly. The other piece of the technology is that these devices are connected via internet or cell phones. It doesn't matter. They're very versatile. and they instantly transmit data to a cloud from which somebody in the captain's or the medical part of the crew or the owners can open a secure portal. Could be on their smartphone, it could be on an iPad or on their laptop, and they instantly see what all of the devices, if there's 10 devices and they're processing, 60 people an hour each, that's 600 people. All of that is transformed into graphs and charts and whatever, so they can track everything. So that is the what. The economics of it is that all of these services are provided kind of like a cell phone in that it's there's a cost per use, a cost and it's very affordable, very inexpensive. So our economic model is just to process to be paid as our system is used. And for that one cost per use, all of the data, which is continually stored and available, and reports can be generated to health authorities and anything else that our client wants. All of that comes with it. So those are the two aspects. The devices themselves, um, uh, depending on the size and the need for processing, I would think, you know, it's not, it's, there wouldn't be a need for tons of them to clear a passenger uh, cruise ship.
Okay, so like a 4,000 passenger cruise ship, um, that you would have the devices at embarkation, and you would also have the devices on board for continual recording of the data and testing whilst the cruise was in progress.
That's correct. With us, everything is uh, is is determined up front by our client. So we would sit with our client and figure out what they want to achieve, what their metrics are, what would they consider a success. Our system is very configurable. So the configuration, it's the same exact system that's being used at Pearson Airport that was used in West Africa for Ebola control, or in South Africa for HIV, or in Colombia for a dengue outbreak, and or that the US military has used for unmentionable biothreats. So the system is a very flexible tool, and um, the simple procedure is to figure out what would be success for our client, and then we shape the workflow and the reporting.
What do you see as probably the key challenge for cruise lines, for crew and for passengers, and ports and destinations in the safe resumption of cruising? As you know, it's slowly starting to resume in places mainly carrying nationals of the country where the ship is based, in order to maintain this bubble effect. And how can FRR's devices and systems assist?
Well, you know, the fundamental problem uh, in a pandemic is correct fear. In other words, it isn't that everybody's got the disease. A minority of people have the disease. You don't know who has it. You don't know when they have it. And so you fear, because if it gets out of hand, um, things shut down again. So the solution to correct, and I don't minimize it, that's why I call it correct fear. The solution, and prior to solutions like this, let's say in the 20th century, you couldn't solve that problem. So everybody better stay at home. And if the pandemic like SARS lasted a month and a half or 2 months, that's fine. COVID, it's going to destroy the world economy. So what you have to do is realize that you can separate those few who actually have it from those who don't. And those who don't can carry on their lives normally. And businesses can carry on normally as long as you are separating those who have it from those who don't, instead of treating everybody with a nameless fear that they might have it. And another way of putting that is replacing fear with data, replacing fear with measures. And that's what, that's what our system really does. So we would test, and that's the big challenge for cruise lines, for schools, for the entertainment industry in general, for almost everybody. So do on the spot frequent testing. I mean, diabetics test they have to prick their fingers and draw blood each and every day. And they go on and, are generals of militaries and world leaders and ordinary people doing great jobs. It's not too much to ask people to stick a little swab in their nose twice a day or what have you, and know that everybody else that's on the ship also had their nose swabbed, and none of you had COVID, so carry on. And those who do, get them to assistance. That is the secret of continuing the life, which is passing whether we have this pandemic or not. It's the secret to continuing life and to continuing economic life. And we are, we feel very privileged that we can bring that to multiple sectors.
Okay, and finally, if I may, there's a lot of discussion just currently now about mandating COVID-19 vaccination before sailing, whilst a cruise line executive at a major cruise brand said towards the back end of last year that vaccines won't be a magic wand. They will be part of the solution, but testing will be the solution. Do you agree with that statement? And if so, why?
Yeah, I do. I was speaking to, I think he won't mind me quoting him, but the head of safety and security at Pearson. I asked him when he started his work, and it was the month after 9/11. And I asked him, so you saw when airports went from, just walk onto a plane with a sandwich and kiss your wife or husband goodbye at the airplane door to, having CT scanners at airports. CT scanners, these are magic machines, sequestered in hospitals. And I asked him, does COVID, to your mind, is COVID a thing that's just going to come and go? Or is it a 9/11 event? And he said, I lived through the 9/11. I came up then, he said, this is a 9/11 event. This will be with us forever, or at least for a long time. There will be a COVID-21, or maybe a COVID-22. There are variants. And testing is data. And running businesses without data means your strategy is luck. That's not a good strategy. So regarding vaccines, our platform can also track vaccines. You can get a vaccine passport. So you show a barcode, comes onto your cell phone off of our system. It means whoever you're talking to knows that you've been vaccinated. There would probably be a requirement to sample continuously. Maybe if the pandemic is rearing its head as it is now, you want to test everybody. But then maybe after a while, you just want to test 100. And then if you see trends, as our technology shows daily, or even hourly, or by the minute if you want, you take correct action. So you can see what you're dealing with, respond effectively. We are all alive because our immune system does this every minute of every day. We now need technology so that businesses can do this to some extent, so that the business can function. We all function through all kinds of diseases that, long time ago would have killed us. They don't now because our immune system handles it. It's the same sort of thing. It will be with us. And when there is a COVID-22, if these systems are already in place, there won't be the kind of devastation that we've seen with COVID-19.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you sharing your insights today. I've learned a lot and wish you a good rest of the day. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, and I look forward to taking a cruise shortly.